alleging that compromising material may have been passed on to Israel's Mossad Secret Service, the Saudi Arabian authorities, and Gaddafi's Libyan intelligence services by Epstein. Could you expand on all of this, please?
Yes, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I had was taken up by the lawyers on Libya and the Middle East, so it makes it slightly difficult to justify some of them. But for example, there's a man called Tim Riley who worked for Kroll, who talks about the compromat that the Russians had on Andrew. There is a Kazakhstan businessman that I interview who describes how Andrew would go to nightclubs, be taken back into private rooms, would be entertained by escorts provided by the government or the businesses that he was involved with, which was pretty standard practice. And indeed, I talked to various British businessmen operating there who said it was standard business to basically offer prostitutes. We have the private secretary asking at the consul in South Africa, saying, Andrew likes blondes, can you provide some? So we have, a lot of people on the record talking about this. And everyone I talked to said, of course, what they would do then is have a honey trap. This wasn't from the goodness of their heart. And we know, of course, from Mark Dugan that there were tapes taken of people going to the Epstein premises. These tapes were taken in by the FBI in 2006. He has some himself, which he took to Russia. So, we know about these things. Virginia Giuffre has talked about the blackmailing that Epstein did and how Andrew was a pretty obvious target. And we have Steve Hoffenberg talking how Andrew and Clinton were the trophy ball prizes for him in terms of people that he could compromise. So I don't think there's any doubt about the material. And of course, it's standard practice for all those intelligence agencies to have honey traps and then film people.
And Juliet Bryant, survivor, talked about going in the control room and talking to the control room operator where all of the screens were for the stuff they were filming in one of Jeffrey's properties. So we've been told, by the US government in recent months that there was no links to Israel. Move on, nothing to see here. Jeffrey's a lone wolf, no conspiracy, etc. But you're saying you're convinced that Jeffrey was providing information to multiple intelligence agencies. Could you prioritize those intelligence agencies in terms of which ones he was most doing business with?
Well, I don't buy the story that he was a sort of a paid-up agent for a particular agency, let's say like Mossad. I think he was a freelancer who was just selling stuff to the highest bidder and trading one person off against another. In terms of this conspiracy and in terms of building it up, clearly there must have been people who helped him, and clearly the links that make sense there are Mossad with Maxwell and others. But I think he was a freelancer and he would do business as a lot, and I don't know what Ben Menashe is saying, but I would have thought that these guys basically go to the highest bidder and they play each other off.
Yeah, I mean that is quite feasible. Menashe said that Prince Andrew was a useful idiot for Israeli intelligence, but that's he's because he was former Israeli military intelligence. That's the side he would hear. So if Jeffrey was dealing with everybody else, we'd have to have interview people from those jurisdictions really to get that side of it. And I think the CIA would have been in there as well. I think.
Well, we know.
So many
sorry to interrupt, but we know the reason he was given that lenient sentence was that Costa was told he's an intelligence. Basically, leave him alone. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're fine. You're doing great. And Candace Owens last night talked about an interview, an exclusive that Ghislaine Maxwell did from prison with a Mrs. Barak, and she hadn't put it together that the host was a cousin of Ehud Barak, and we're looking at all of the visits to Jeffrey's property. And then if you look at the funeral of Robert Maxwell, in Israel, it does seem that Israel had a primary role, I would say, in Jeffrey's activities. Dershowitz, etc. There's just so many Israel connections.
Yes, no, I agree. I mean, I think that's probably right. That would make most sense. And I suppose all we can hope is other people may come forward from other agencies to fill out the story.
So you're talking about Saudi Arabian authorities also received compromising material on Andrew from Epstein. Could you expand on that?
Well, we know that Andrew is doing a lot of business in the Middle East. Indeed, his daughters are now doing business in the Middle East. He's very close to the ruler in Abu Dhabi. He's been given a palace there. I think they were at school together briefly. And it's a very easy area to go under the radar. One of his former private secretaries has a key position in the economic in one of the economic development agencies in the Middle East. So I think he is doing a lot of business there, but and thinks they're friends. But I think they clearly are collecting material on him. I mean, everyone in this sort of dog eat dog world is picking up stuff, and it's just extraordinary that he kind of walks into these traps. But he is very low hanging fruit.
Wouldn't Prince Andrew have realized at some point that Jeffrey was using him in this fashion?
I'm told by one former girlfriend that he did, and that was one of the reasons again for the visit in December 2010, partly to get more money for Fergie, nothing to do with breaking up. But it was also to get reassurances from Epstein that he wasn't going to use anything that he had on him. And the Epstein-Trump relationship, I understand, really broke down because Epstein thought that Trump would pardon him. Trump said no. Epstein threatened to expose Trump. And that's where things, got nasty. And in fact, shortly afterwards, Epstein was arrested and, of course, died shortly afterwards. So, I think certainly one person has told me that a former Epstein employee says that Trump was behind the death of Epstein.
What's your take on the sweetheart deal?
With Ghislaine now?
No, that's coming. The original one, yeah.
The original one, yeah. So there's so many sweetheart deals. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, he had good lawyers, and Acosta basically had pressure put on him, and they found every excuse to basically give him the most extraordinary lenient sentence. No one's ever seen before. He had very good connections. He had lots of money. He knew, I think, probably where a lot of the bodies were buried, and he was able to leverage that. I don't think anyone feels that deal. I think the lawyers were appalled by what went on. Everyone feels there was complete stitch up then, as we're now seeing a complete stitch up with Ghislaine. Moved to a prison way out of sight from everyone. You would think she'd be brought closer to Washington if they were keen for her to give testimony. And be quietly sort of disappeared, into the witness protection scheme, or she can literally, I understand, just walk out the gate and go. So, there's no need for a pardon. She just disappears.
How can an administration that says it's fighting the human transportation of girls, put Maxwell in a cushy club-fed prison and be on the verge of pardoning Maxwell? Because I don't know if you've seen some of the recent things that Trump's saying. He's saying that people who are hurt in this case, who shouldn't have been hurt, it basically they're going to undo that, which I'm interpreting as she's about to get pardoned or commuted, or she's not going to do that 20.
No. I mean, but as I say, I don't think she's going to even be pardoned. She'll just disappear. There'll be no scrutiny of what's going on in the prison. I mean, who can reveal what's happened to her? So he'll duck the issue. But we all can see what's going on, and we all have the accounts of Trump being removed from all the paperwork in the files. and attempts to smear people like Bill Clinton. So it's pretty obvious. But I think people are going to be very angry if they feel that the victims have been ignored and the perpetrator of these crimes is being rewarded. And that's why I think Trump wants to duck the issue and is being rather sort of mealy-mouthed about it and vague. I'm sure all sorts of plans are going on behind closed doors, just that we don't know about them.
Yeah, the victims we're speaking to are absolutely up in arms over this. So you're saying then that she's going to be put out of view. Is that in the prison system, or she would be released and no one will even know about it?
I think she'll be put on a plane and she'll go to Costa Rica or something. She will just disappear, and people won't realize. There'll be a line that she's being moved to another prison, so that the present prisoners don't know where. Can't report her missing, and then she'll be driven down the road and the door will be opened and she'll be off into a private plane, and that's the last we'll hear of her. Job done.
Sipping a cocktail on the beach with Kenneth Lay with his facial reconstruction.
Exactly. I mean, there'll be a whole group of people there with Lord Lucan as well.
So Stephen Hoffenberg, then we were chatting earlier. He's someone I was speaking to. I was about to interview him actually before he was found dead. His corpse had been left for a week in the property. Maria Farmer was talking to him back then. And you researched Stephen Hoffenberg. So what did you find out was his perspective?
Well, I mean, he was. I know that when he discovered that Epstein had died, he was in a hospital up in New England. He absolutely panicked. He didn't want anyone to come near him. He didn't want any injections. He was frightened for his life. He knew that there was a hit list and he would be on it. And he did, as you say, die in rather mysterious circumstances, as so many people in this story have died early deaths. I mean, I'm thinking of Recamier, the policeman in Palm Beach as well, Virginia Giuffre, many of the victims, Jean-Louis Brunel. I would say this is beyond if you were to talk to a statistician, this is beyond what might likely happen.
Yeah, and Hoffenberg was Jeffrey's partner in a huge financial fraud. And it's like Jeffrey went from school teacher to fraudster, and Hoffenberg took the fall, but Jeffrey somehow got a pass, because many people asked, where did his money come from? And that was the beginning of it, wasn't it? And then Wexner gave him the property. Yep. Black gave him over 100 million in fees, and it just parlayed from there.
I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, Hoffenberg went to prison for 18 years, and nothing happened to Epstein, and they were both in it as deeply as each other. But Hoffenberg, I think, is a very, very good witness, and the interviews I've seen with him have been very revealing.
Yeah, it's just a pity I never got to interview him. So another person who didn't make it was John Mark Duggan's colleague, Joseph Reccari, who was his fellow Florida cop.
Sorry, Reccari, I call him Recamier, yes.
Yeah, he told John Mark Duggan that if they gave the evidence to the superiors, it would never see the light of day. And then he was only in his 50s, perfectly healthy, and he died mysteriously as well.
Yes, I approached his widow to try and find out more.
And what did she say?
Wouldn't talk. So whether she was paid off or just didn't want to get involved, who knows?
Did you manage to speak to any of the other Florida police department?
No, I think one that appeared in a television program. That was about it. So no, I mean, again, there's an inertia around this story. People are either scared or paid off or don't want the hassle. I can understand that. Why should they? And that's why it's so brave of some of the victims to come forward and talk. But I think other people just, life's complicated enough without getting involved like this.
So do you think all this evidence that was seized then, and Pam Bondi touched on something, she said that if all of the evidence in the Epstein case was released, it would be catastrophic for society? Is that because both political parties, captains of industry, people at the top of tech the academic institutions, intellectuals. There's a hell of a lot of them were compromised by Jeffrey. Is that why it would be catastrophic for society for us to see the extent of what he did?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we can get some indication of the range of his contacts from the Black Book. I mean, the fact they're in the Black Book doesn't mean that they've done anything untoward, but we've also got the Lolita flight digests. And, various people like Tom Prisker, head of the Hyatt Hotel Group, who has been accused of rape by Virginia Giuffre and has denied it, of course. He was flying to Sandringham on that visit with Epstein and Maxwell and Andrew. So that, there are lots of names there which keep being mentioned. Richard Branson, I mean, Sarah Ransom talked about Richard Branson and then retracted it, then said, actually, no, she'd been forced to retract it. He, of course, leapt on that. There are a lot of names with, hints from people that, they were much more involved than they've let on.
Did you try to contact anybody from the Black Book?
Yes, I did. Yes, and got no response.
Okay, so we'll move on to some of the other parts of your book, and viewers, if you're interested in the book, I am going to put the links in the live chat again right now. Andrew's book is entitled "The Rise and Fall of the House of York," and we've got almost 2,000 people watching live presently across all of the socials. So that link is going to go out on all of the socials right now, and it's also, if you watch this on replay, it's going to go out in the description box. And I know you guys have got tons of questions, so keep the questions coming in. We're going to go through some of the other revelations in the book, and then we'll conclude with your viewer questions. So this punch up then with Harry and Prince Andrew. Could you expand on that, please?
Well, it's a paragraph from the book. I never expected it to generate quite so much interest. I should have sort of thought this through. Anything on Harry, it comes from a good source. I stand by it. The two episodes, they tend to get conflated. There's the one in 2013 and then the one in 2017 about Meghan. He's gone on the record saying that he's sent legal letters to my publisher. And I think he's been very protective of Meghan. I think it's a strange thing to do. All it's done is given publicity to the book and helped me sell a few more copies. And looking at the comments, most people say, well done, Harry, for giving Andrew a punch. So it seems a very strange thing for him to do, but he does seem to be litigious. He has a history of, as we all know, of throwing his fists. Let's see what happens. We can perhaps agree to differ that recollections vary.
So when you get a legal letter like that, great PR boost for the book. And what would the person be trying to achieve? Because the cat's already out of the bag. Would it be like threatening a defamation lawsuit down the road?
Yes, I mean, it's like one of what we call strategic law slaps, strategic law something or other, and they're using financial pressure to scare people. So it's a form of intimidation, and Shillings are one of the companies that do it. They represent a lot of, I would say, pretty dubious people, and they will just write letters to scare people, perhaps to scare publishers, other people, for example, from reporting stories, the press, perhaps encouraging publishers to change things in the book, particularly in the ebook edition. Intimidating authors so that they perhaps hold back from saying everything they could when they do podcasts like this. I mean, for example, Fergie's lawyers were writing to my publisher's Collins before the book came out, saying they were monitoring my social media. I'm sure they're watching this to try and gather any information they can to bring some sort of lawsuit. And one of the points I bring out in the book is the number of lawsuits that Fergie brought, often abandoning them because they hadn't got a chance in hell. But it's all part of intimidating people, trying to change the narrative. What Harry was trying to do was undermine my credibility, saying, look, he just makes stuff up, and this isn't true. So, the lawyers who looked at the letter that we had said that out of 10, it's a 2. It's nothing. This thing is going to die. Harry isn't going to pursue this case. He's not going to want to go into court and be subpoenaed. and have Andrew have to give depositions, and what damage has been done to him. It's actually improved his public standing, and what damage can be done to Andrew given his reputation. So it's complete. It's just a publicity thing, and that's fine by me. It's helped me sell a few more books.
Yeah, I think the idea of Prince Harry bopping Prince Andrew, giving him a bloody nose. Well, I've got to be careful what I say. Let me move on.